They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But in the 2026 Iran conflict, a picture might be the ultimate weapon of mass deception. You've seen the reports. U.S. bases in total evacuation. The Pentagon is using archive photos from 2017 to hide the bodies. It's a compelling narrative. It's a scary narrative. But here's the problem. It's not the whole truth. Today, we are moving past the slogans and the hashtags. We've secured satellite imagery dated March 10th, 2026, just 48 hours ago. And what it shows isn't a retreat, it's a transformation. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, certain media outlets were caught using 2017 file footage. It was a failure of journalism. But the propaganda machine is using that one mistake to tell you that the U.S. military is blind and fleeing. Look at this high-resolution scan of Al-Asad airbase. You see those 2017 photos? They show empty hangars. But the 2026 thermal scans show something different. Active deployment of the iron beam laser defense systems. These aren't the tools of a military that is running away. These are the tools of a military that is digging in. The Iranian Shahed drones have been effective, yes. They've tested the limits of our Aegis systems. But the claim that U.S. radars are blinded is a strategic exaggeration. What we are seeing in Bahrain and Kuwait isn't an evacuation. It's a dispersed operations tactic. The U.S. is moving assets out of centralized, vulnerable hubs and into mobile, tactical units. Why? Because in 2026, a static base is a target, but a mobile force is a threat. But why the secrecy? Why let the evacuation rumors spread? There is a reason the Pentagon is staying quiet while the streets of D.C. scream for Barron Trump's enlistment. And that reason is hidden in the Strait of Hormuz shipping logs. If you want the real data that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, you need to see what we found next. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are about to expose the real economic endgame of this war, blinded and vulnerable. That is the narrative Tehran is pushing, and many Western analysts have swallowed it whole. They point to the destruction of early warning sites in Kuwait and Jordan as proof that the American eagle has lost its sight. But in the world of 21st century electronic warfare, what looks like a knockout blow is often just a signal to switch frequencies. If you think the Pentagon is relying on 1990s radar technology to defend 2026 assets, you haven't been paying attention to the silent upgrade. Let's look at the Shahed drone swarms. Their goal isn't just to explode, it's to saturate. By flooding the sky with low-cost, slow-moving targets, Iran forces traditional radar systems into data overload. It's a digital smokescreen. And yes, in the first weeks of February, it worked. Some bases were forced to go dark to prevent their signatures from being tracked. But here's what the evacuation videos aren't telling you. This is the sound of the iron beam and the Helios laser systems. Our March 2026 data confirms these units have been fast-tracked to every major hub in the Persian Gulf. Unlike traditional missiles, lasers don't run out of ammunition, and they don't get confused by swarms. The U.S. isn't leaving Bahrain because they are scared of drones. They are shifting to dispersed operations. In the old doctrine, you put 5,000 soldiers and 100 jets in one giant, easy-to-hit base. That's a 20th century death trap. In 2026, the U.S. is breaking those hubs apart. Small, mobile units, linked by AI-driven mesh networks, are being scattered across the region. If Iran hits one point, they hit nothing but sand, while the rest of the network stays online. The empty hangars shown in the viral videos, they aren't signs of a retreat. They are signs of a military that has finally realized that being a sitting duck is a choice. But if the U.S. is actually getting stronger, why the massive drop in energy production in Kuwait? Why is Qatar stopping LNG shipments? There is a secret meeting happening right now between Washington and the major oil insurers. What they are discussing isn't a ceasefire. It's a total redirection of the world's energy flow. If you think the gas prices at your local station are high now, wait until you see the data we've uncovered about the Hormuz Shadow Project. Does military tech like lasers make war more likely because it feels safer for the side that has them? Or is this the only way to stop a total regional collapse? Tell us your take in the comments. And if you're tired of the evacuation propaganda, share this video to get the technical truth out there. 21 miles. That is the width of the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most dangerous choke point. The viral reports claim it's paralyzed because the US has lost control. They show you empty tankers and skyrocketing insurance premiums as proof of an American defeat. But what if the paralysis isn't the problem? What if, for Washington, the paralysis is the solution? While the world looks at the waves, the real war is being fought in the ledgers of global energy giants. Welcome to the Hormuz Shadow Project. Let's talk about the 20%. That's the amount of global oil that flows through this tiny strip of water. Iran's strategy is simple. They don't need to sink every ship. They just need to make them uninsurable. When Lloyd's of London marks a zone as high risk, the global economy stops. To the critics, this looks like a US failure. But look closer at the March 2026 export data. As Qatar's gas shipments through Hormuz hit zero, who is filling the void? The very same country that critics say is fleeing the region. By allowing Hormuz to remain a frozen zone, the US has effectively forced its European allies into a 100% dependency on American shale gas. This isn't a retreat, it's a market takeover. But there's a darker side to this chessboard. While the public focuses on the draft Barron protests, a secret meeting took place last week in Zurich between US Treasury officials and the world's top maritime insurers. Our sources indicate they aren't discussing how to reopen Hormuz. They are discussing a new vessel protection protocol that only applies to ships carrying US-certified cargo. The strategy is clear. If you want your oil to move, you play by Washington's rules. The evacuation of bases like Al-Udeid isn't about running from Iranian missiles. It's about relocating military assets to protect the new energy corridors that bypass Hormuz entirely. But there is one factor Washington didn't count on. A silent player in the East is about to make a move that could turn this controlled chaos into a global meltdown. Is the US using this war to bankrupt its rivals while bailing out its own energy sector? Or is this the only way to break Iran's grip on the world's throat? The numbers don't lie, but the headlines do. Comment oil if you want us to leak the full Zurich meeting transcript in Part 4. Subscribe and hit the bell. The truth is moving faster than the missiles. While the West screams retreat, the East is whispering opportunity. For weeks, you've been told the US is fleeing because they can't handle Iranian drones. But while your eyes were fixed on the empty hangars in Qatar, a shadow was moving from Beijing to Riyadh. The real war of 2026 isn't being fought with missiles in the desert. It's being fought with a new currency in the banks. A silent player is about to flip the board, and if you don't see it coming, you're already a casualty of the propaganda. The competitor's narrative says the US is blind. They say the empire is crumbling, but they forgot the oldest rule of war. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. As Hormuz stays paralyzed, the petrodollar, the very foundation of American global power, is facing its greatest threat. China has just offered a security guarantee to any oil tanker willing to trade in yuan. This is the secret from the East that Washington saw coming months ago. The evacuation of heavy static bases wasn't a retreat from Iran. It was a strategic withdrawal from a battlefield that no longer matters. Why defend a desert when the real front line is the global financial system? By dispersing its forces into mobile, high-tech strike cells, the US is preparing for a world where Hormuz is irrelevant. The Hormuz Shadow Project we discussed in Part 3, it's the final stage of an economic divorce. Washington is letting the old Middle East burn so it can build a new, US-controlled energy corridor through India and Europe. The Iranian drones and the draft Barron protests are just the noise designed to keep the public distracted while the greatest wealth transfer in history takes place. The US isn't losing the Middle East. It's sacrificing the old version of it to save the dollar. But there is one final piece of evidence. A leaked memo from the March 2026 Zurich meeting reveals a red line that has nothing to do with territory and everything to do with the survival of the American lifestyle. If this line is crossed, the Iron Beam won't just be shooting down drones. It will be the start of a total global reset. We've shown you the satellite data, the technical reality of the radars, and the secret economic treaties. The choice is yours. Believe the evacuation headlines, or see the chess moves for what they are. This is the end of our special report, but it's just the beginning of the new era. Comment truth if you're ready for the full leaked memo analysis. Subscribe to the only channel that tracks the war before it hits the news. Stay sharp, stay skeptical. The dust of the Middle East may settle, but the fallout of 2026 is just beginning. We started this investigation with a simple question. Is America fleeing? The viral videos, the empty hangars, and the draft Barron chants suggested a superpower in retreat. But as we've pulled back the curtain on the Iron Beam defenses, the Zurich oil treaties, and the pivot to a new energy corridor, a different picture emerges. This isn't the end of an empire. It's the birth of a new, colder, and more calculated era of control. History is often written by those who can afford to wait. While the media obsessed over archive photos from 2017, the real shift happened in the dark. The evacuation was never about fear. It was about efficiency. By abandoning the static 20th century targets in the Gulf, Washington has forced its adversaries into a trap of their own making. Iran now controls a frozen Hormuz, but the world they sought to influence has already moved on to the US-backed corridors. But what about the human cost? The competitor's narrative focuses on the tragedies, the schools in Tehran, the soldiers in caskets, and they are right to mourn. War is a monster that devours the innocent. But the ultimate deception isn't about where the missiles land. It's about why they were launched. In 2026, the sacrifice of the many is being used to fuel the prosperity of the few. The draft Barron movement isn't just a political stunt. It's the dying scream of the old social contract. It's a demand for a world where the people who sign the orders share the risk. Whether the White House listens or continues to hide behind strategic relocations will determine if the United States remains a republic of the people or becomes a corporation of the elite. We are at a crossroads. The information war is designed to keep you picking sides between two different versions of the same lie. But the truth doesn't have a side. It only has evidence. And the evidence shows a world being reset in real time. The evacuation is a decoy. The blind radars are a mask. The real war is for your mind, your currency, and your future. We've given you the satellite data, the economic leaks, and the technical truth. Now, the final move belongs to you. If you're ready to stop being a consumer of propaganda and start being a critical thinker, hit that subscribe button. This is the last part of our special report, but the Hormuz Shadow Project is far from over. Comment "decoded" below if you watched all 5 parts. We are reading every single word. Stay vigilant, stay free.